Coors Light presents Call the Coach live from Ruby Tuesday in the Moanalua Shopping Center.
Good evening and welcome to Ruby Tuesday here in the Moanalua Shopping Center. Tiff Wells along with Rainbow Warrior Volleyball head coach Charlie Wade. A program that is ranked number 2 in the country, 6th straight week, 10-0. You've not dropped a set at all this season, Coach.
Yeah, so far so good.
You played Stanford a couple weeks ago, of course Lincoln Memorial 2 weeks ago as well, and no set losses. It's been a perfect season so far here in 2019.
Yeah, we certainly didn't set out with that kind of goal in mind, but teams played well and responded every time we've gotten pushed. So, like I said, so far so good. This is a special group, there's no doubt, and playing at a really high level. Again,
the number 296-1420. If you do have a question or comment for the coach, and if you are in-house here at Ruby Tuesday, we do have a microphone going around, so find AC or Dave or Keegan, give them a high sign, and we can ask Coach the question, because it is Call the Coach. And again, tying the program record for 3-0 sweeps to begin a season. You've won 10 in a row. Lincoln Memorial, that second match on the 17th of February, a couple weeks ago, was that third set. Down 24-22 in a couple of times in that last set where you had guys on the bench, Joe Worsley, Stein von Tilburg, Rado Parapunov, all kind of inching their way towards you to mention to you to bring them back on the floor. At any point in time, were you nervous in that third set?
No, and it's not that I was cared if we lost, but you just wanted to play it out and let the guys that were on the floor. At that point, we had Jackson Van Eckeren in, and it dawned on me that he hadn't set even at practice in maybe a month. And we threw him out there and let him run the offense. He ended up with 16 set assists in that set. That's a lot. You lead the country by a big margin. So, those guys work really hard, and the group we had out there, I wanted to see if they could kind of play through. They'd made a couple, just kind of had a few loose points. And then as it got tighter late, we'd been talking about having Rado start serving for us, and we actually started the match that way and wanted to put him out and get his brain kind of calibrated a little differently on him serving. So I knew I wanted to use him as a serving sub, and did, and he missed. So we'll keep challenging him that way. And then I was thinking of putting Joe in for Jackson when he came back to serve, just because he's got a real strong serve, and let him kind of run the offense for those last few points. And so we were I talked to him in one of the timeouts. He goes, I'm ready. So, okay, we're on the same page. He's getting ready to go. And then there might even been another timeout, and he said, Stein's ready too. Like they'd been conspiring over there. He's like, double sub. I'm like, all right. So we went with the double sub. And then
you have 6 per set. You might as well use them, right?
And at that point, like, they're jonesing to go back in, and you could tell it was important to them in that moment that if possible, can we preserve the unblemished record in terms of sets? So we gave them a shot, and they responded well. So it was, I thought it was good.
Yeah, like we said, 10-0 on the season. You've won 30 straight sets in a row, 2 shy of tying the record, set back 2 years ago in 2017. You mentioned about Joe, but how about the play of Jakob Telle, your freshman, the backup setter from Norway? How have you enjoyed seeing him come through the first couple matches?
Well, he's a nice athlete. He can play at a really high level. And the whole thing, people talk about, you haven't lost a set. And I said, no, we have. We do lose all the time. Just come watch practice, because we lose the B side in practice pretty regularly. And Jacob does a really nice job. 6'6", lefty, really high volleyball IQ, really athletic. He's a nice player. We're thrilled to have him.
How competitive are these guys in the practice gym? For those that aren't fortunate enough to go to Gym 2 or in the Stan Sheriff Center, how competitive is your roster this year?
Well, ultra competitive. And that's kind of been something we've had for the last few years that we've talked about. Going back, I guess 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now, where there's times where the B sides, and there's always kind of this B side magic where the guys, there's less pressure on them, they just free it up and get after it. But we've had some really talented players on the other side of the net for a long time, and it really helps at practice.
For some of the upperclassmen, we've mentioned about Joe. How about the progression of Rado Parapunov, one of the top attackers in the nation, in the conference? You look at the stats, kills per set, points per set, hitting percentage. He has really elevated his game this year, and serving as well.
His whole and he will not let you forget digging. If you look at the stats right now, he had 5 in the first set, and now he's going to telling us he's averaging 5 digs a set. but he is at like 1.2 something, for a 6'9" guy that, it's been a challenge. He's worked hard on it, and I like to tell him that he's falling faster sometimes, but he's going for the ball clearly, and he reminds Colton Cowell that he's averaging almost a half a dig a set, or a little more than a half a dig a set more than he is. And if he needs some pointers, he's going to help point that out for him. But Rado's development is really impressive. Kid has worked hard. You could see it from the day he got here that he was really committed and a really nice player. And, oh, by the way, 6'9" lefty hammer. And what he's done offensively so far, hitting .533 on the left or as an opposite where he's hitting against double and triple blocks a lot. It's been impressive. His blocking is so much improved. It is the one thing that we probably work on, every day with him, and he and I kind of go at it. And I keep challenging him, and he's so much better as a blocker, and the serving is remarkable. I don't know where it is right now, but I know going into last week it was like 94% in bounds and leading the league in aces per set. And again, just this big lefty and a hard angle, and he's operating kind of mid to high 60s all the time, which is the point scoring goes way up. And it with that lefty, it's always got a little tail to it, and it's diving and moving on people. So really every part of his game has evolved to a point where it's still early in the season, but if the numbers continue, he absolutely is in Player of the Year conversation. And I don't think that's a question at all.
Again, the number 296-1420, 296-1420. Talking with Rainbow Warrior head coach Charlie Wade, and you talk about Rado Parapunov, and in 2017 when he was a freshman, didn't get to see a whole lot of him. He came in sporadically as a serving sub, and you had mentioned after that season when you guys fell in the semifinal round at Ohio State that you envisioned something, which is what we have seen 2018 and coming into 2019, which is moving which was unheard of at the time, moving an All-American from the right to the left in Stein von Tilburg, and now you have a double whammy offensively with von Tilburg now hitting left and Rado hitting right.
Yeah, and that was one of my children, I think, ask him your question. What we're doing all the time is like, well, why would you do that? And I said, to win. Because having two guys that are that potent offensively on the floor is a huge advantage. There's no question. And then the pieces around him are pretty good also. But Stein's worked hard on his reception. He is a complete player, a 6-rotation point scorer, and his receiving is something he's worked hard on. And he's a lot better at it than he was last year. And when he's playing good, it's good enough.
How hard is it for a guy moving from the right side to the left? Because playing on the right, you're more so a point scorer. On the left, now you're having to play defense, be on serve receive. Talk about how Stein made that progression from going as a All-American first-teamer on the right side to now on the left as an All-American coming into 2019.
Yeah, I don't think it was that tough for him because, when I went to Amsterdam to watch him, he was a left. He was started in area forward for their national team. So he played some opposite, but he'd been mostly an outside hitter. We had him play the opposite in the first year, and he responded well. That was the higher learning curve. Him going back over to the left, in terms of the position, hasn't been that difficult since he's played there so much. It's just getting him, to be able to hold his ground receiving. He's, like I said, he's worked hard on it as a receiver and is much improved at it.
We've talked about so many players on this roster. We have failed to mention one of the local boys from Makawa, Maui, Colton Cowell, 6'2", and for what he's done, and I know a lot of people here are enjoying how he has played this season. He's only hitting .483 on the season, averaging 2.6 kills per set, one of the top servers with 10 service aces on the season.
Yeah, he's just another great story in this group. These guys have worked so hard, and there's a kid that's been here for 4 years, and his progress is, off the charts. That is just such a great message and such a great story for anyone, really, to, when met with adversity and trying to overcome obstacles, just continue to work hard and work hard and work hard. And, he was libero for us, for a couple of years, and he always had this kind of dream of being a 6-rotation point scorer, and kept working at it. And look at him now. The numbers he's putting up really are kind of jaw-dropping. And he benefits some. One, for having Joe Worsley as the setter that can isolate him, and he is dynamic, and he jump touches 11-7 or something, so he can hit balls at the top of the antenna, and just that ability to go fast for 6 rotations. And then he does have Stein and Rado on the court too, so how much time can you really spend trying to game plan and slow down a guy like that when you have two other All-Americans that they're on the floor the whole time.
But he still needs to work on his defense, right, according to Rado?
Yeah, Rado's been taking him and getting him some extra lessons and stuff so he can I think Rado's trying to position to be his beach partner this summer a little bit too, and show him how to play on the beach as well.
How has Brett and Colton, how has their partnership on the beach the last couple of summers, how has that helped not only their game but also the squad in general?
Well, it's just guys playing at a high level, and the more they're out playing volleyball, competing and training, the better you're going to be. So, that it's been great, and certainly it's helped Colton's development to play. This past year where they lost in the final of the Collegiate Beach Championships, but they qualified for the World Championships or World Games or whatever they were calling it. They went to Germany and they played at a really high level against some of the best players in the world. And the more opportunities you get to play and compete at that level and represent your country, just all the better.
You lost one of the All-Americans last year in Tui Tuileta as a libero, and for what Gage Worsley has done so far this season, a lot of people saw him last year mainly as that serving sub. But for Gage to come in and basically, I wouldn't say outperform Tui, but numbers-wise, one of the top diggers, not in the conference, but just in the nation in general. How have you liked his progression so far?
Yeah, it's no surprise because anyone that's seen Gage play for years, he's been a really high-level player. And, we were fortunate to have a guy like Tui, just a veteran guy that could kind of mentor and show Gage, what it's like to play that position at that level, because it is a little different, going from playing at the junior level to having adult men, rocketing 70-mile-an-hour jump serves at you. There's a bit of a learning curve there. We could have at any point last year had Gage play in that position, and he would have been able to play at a high level, but where he's taken it now, and just being on the floor with his brother and seeing the way those two interact and just the joy with which they play the game and how much they love competing with each other, it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Different types of demeanor. I mean, everybody knows how cool and collected Tui was and how he played as a Rainbow Warrior, but for Gage to when he gets on the floor, you don't know what exactly he's going to do. And there was an award that he won at the Aokoa banquet over last month, and he's won it for the second straight year. Talk about what he mentioned to you when he was being nominated for this award.
Well, he's just, he's always been a high-energy guy, and it's something that the team votes on, the guy that kind of shows up and motivates the team every day just on their effort and their energy, that is him. I remember going and watching him in the junior level, and this is when Joe was on our team, and he was, still in high school, and he would just look deranged and neurotic. I mean, he's out there just playing like a madman. But it's in such a way you're like, that guy, I want that guy on my team. Like, he's running around and playing like a crazy man, but making plays. Really impressive to watch. Yesterday they had a bunch of the replays on TV, and you can hear, and I don't catch it as much during the game, but you could clearly hear it on the replay, that he's calling out. This is something we've worked on for years. He's calling out the blocking schemes to Joe. And Joe's really good at turning and looking to seeing how they're defending us, but you can clearly hear it on TV where he's yelling, "Read, Joe, read!" Like he's telling whatever the middle blocker's doing and how they're defending us, he is telling Joe while the ball's in the air before he set it, how they're defending us. So, he is full energy all the time, and just thrilled to have him in our program.
It's almost like you have two different coaches. It's almost like you have two additional coaches on the floor with both Gage and Joe. We can talk more about Joe and even Gage. We need to take a break. You're listening to Call the Coach here from Ruby Tuesday, Moanalua. This is Call the Coach.
Back to Call the Coach, brought to you in part by No Foods of Hawaii and the HGEA on ESPN 1420.
And welcome back to Ruby Tuesday here in the Moanalua Shopping Center.
The crowd goes wild.
Tip Wells here along with head coach Charlie Wade. And
how about this crowd down here tonight, Tiff?
It is a very good crowd, and there are a lot of season ticket holders, a lot of members of the Booster Club, and we've enjoyed their support all season long, and saw a lot of them at the Aokoa benefit last month. It is Call the Coach. 296-1420 is the number. We do have a caller on the line. Paul, you are on with Coach Charlie Wade.
Oh, hi, Tiff. Hi. Thanks for taking my call. Hi, Coach.
Paul, thank you for calling.
Thanks. I have a quick story about you, Coach Wade. I was at you're not going to remember this, but gotta be about 2 years ago, I was at an ATM in Kahala Mall, and then you were walking up from the parking structure. I saw you. I said, "Hey, Coach," and you said, "Hey," and then I went back to my no, it wasn't like that, but I went back to my business at the ATM. that all of a sudden I felt this presence by me. It was you. You actually came back and, he said, hi, how you doing? And you talked story with me. It wasn't necessarily about how's the team and everything. And, especially as an alumni, I really appreciated that. That's just 2 years ago. I still remember it. And, you're a good guy, and you deserve everything that's happening to you now. I mean, really, I really fawned over this, and I thought that was just terrific. You really looked like you were on your way, and you came back and you talked to me. And, man, for an alumni, that's terrific. So God bless, man. Thanks, everybody. I'll listen off the air.
Well, thank you, Paul, thank you, Paul, for calling in and some kind words. And do you remember the conversation with Paul?
I don't. I just know that, it's just, I think it's just part of just living in Hawaii and part of the aloha spirit. You can tell sometimes when people look at you and want to kind of either talk story or say hi. So, certainly if I can, you try to do that. And I think just people in general do that here. You see somebody, you don't have to know them to be able to stop and talk to them. So, I'm glad I was able to put a smile on Paul's face.
And that aspect, and Paul brings up a good point that it's a little bit different out here, and you're pretty visible. Nick Rolovich is very visible. Pretty much all the UH coaches are visible around the island, and you want to do the best that you can for the community. You're always doing any sort of events, and you don't get that from other coaches when they're around the nation. That they're they walk around their neighborhood, their city. They're not very visible. But when you get somebody like Paul who sees you, call them all, hey, Coach, how's it going? You have a full-on conversation.
Yeah, and it's just, it's one thing that we talk a lot about, that our lives are different. And for all of us, our lives are different. We're here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and, we just have each other in that respect. We got to look after each other, and, our lives are a little different in a lot of ways. But like I said, just the isolation of where we are, and I just think it's important that, like I said, you look after the people around you, and, that's your extended family.
We do have a couple questions that we were handed over during the first break, and this one comes from Brandy. He says, Coach, I always have wondered if your players use a knuckleball serve.
Pat Gassman's got a dirty deep floater that he had the other day. He came back. There was a really, we play these mini games to 18, from 18 in, and then this one went to 35-33. Again, how competitive it is, and Pat came back after Joe told him to float. He backed up and launched this really deep knuckler, and he's used it a fair amount of practice. I think only a little bit during the games, but you'll see it more kind of late in the set when there's a higher increase of just put the ball in play, but not just put it in as a free ball, something that's more difficult. It really has kind of evolved out of the game. You don't see it quite as much. There's so much more now where people are tossing it up, trying to spike it and get it going 70 miles an hour because the point scoring goes way up. But there certainly is a place for it. And ironically, the team that we're playing this week has 4 of their 6 servers are kind of using that kind of knuckle float just to move it around and create some havoc that way.
Your team has 60 service aces on this team. Did you know that 10 of those 60 come from your middle blockers? 8 from Dalton Solberg and 2 from Patrick Gassman. And how about for a 6'10" kid that started his career as a libero, he started his career playing as a libero, and then he grew about 1.5 feet. And then he was told to move and become a middle blocker. But he's told you that he's taken pride in his serving because he wants to stay on the floor and he wants to take pride in playing some defense in the back line. For sure. And those guys, they work really hard at it. Dalton's one every time. If we're scrimmaging and he cycles out of the front row, he goes over to the side court and just virtually serves the entire time. Both of them have worked hard on their serving and increasing their efficiency while maintaining, their ability to point score. And Pat Gassman, when he figures it out, like when he can really toss it up and hit it, you are going to see something unbelievable because he's the one guy, like right now, he can get it to mid-70s, which you just don't see that often, his ability to put it in play. So right now he continued to work on it, and then once in a while, I think you'll see, where we start him his first time back to the service line, he's got green light to go ahead and toss it up and see what he can do, and then usually the second time he comes back, we sub in somebody to serve for him, and then that third time around, we'll see how the game's going and how well he did serving the spin the first time, and really that's going to determine where we are in the match, what's going on around us, how he has served on his third turn, and whether he's going to go to some kind of float serve with a little higher percentage inbounds or
go ahead and rip it and see if he can score on his own.
Again, the number 296-1420. Want to go back to the phone lines. Fred, you are on with Coach Wade.
Hey, it's Fred from Kamuki. Hi, Tiff. Hi, Charlie.
Aloha, Fred.
Hey,
Thanks
Fred.
for calling in.
Hey, you bet. So, I'm a long time fan. Gosh, I'm getting a little reverb there. Anyways, I've just enjoyed watching. I got to see a couple matches this season so far, and was totally impressed on how the young men have bought into the program. I bought into your program, and I've been gone on the mainland for a couple years. Had to take care of some issues with my elderly parents, and I come back and I'm hoping to ask you a couple questions, if I might. The first one is, I'm a little confused about the schedule, and if you could talk to us about the schedule and how it gets laid out. And then the second thing is that I know that everybody who knows anything about UH athletics, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, tennis, or volleyball, the lifeblood of your program is recruiting, obviously. And I'm wondering if you could just share us a couple of stories about what you, without, I know that hopefully the competition's not listening in, but where have you been in the last 4 months? And do you have any interesting stories about where you've been and what you've been doing? And certainly I'm going to take your answers off the air because I'll be able to listen a little better.
Thank you, Fred. That's a very loaded question. Thank you so much, Fred. Coach.
Sure. I think the scheduling part you're referring to is that the schedule does look different in that last year we split all the teams in the West Coast split. We went from a 12-team league, and at one point was a 13 or 14-team league, to 2 leagues. So the Big West, we now have our own league, it's gone from having as many as 24 league games to now we're down to 10. So there's a whole bunch of non-conference scheduling that has to happen. So no longer will you see all the West Coast teams every year. That's just not, and no one on the West Coast is doing it. We still will have a heavy diet, through our first 8 games. 4 of them were from the MPSF, and you'll continue to see that. There will be a lot of the West Coast games, but for everybody in men's volleyball, especially the West Coast teams, you're going to see more non-conference games. There is the Carolina League and the EIVA and the MIVA. There's a lot of those teams. The other part, the challenges with scheduling, there just aren't that many teams. In basketball and volleyball and baseball, and there's other sports where there's like 300 Division I teams, and in volleyball there's just not that many Division I teams. And so you'll see teams that schedule Division II, Division III, NAIA programs. The Canadian teams will come in and play. So that part of it, you'll see virtually everybody to start to schedule more of those kind of non-conference games. And that's just kind of the new reality of it. And it's, as the NCAA tournament has increased, there is more importance on having an RPI, so playing non-conference games is more important. So that's just kind of where it is. And in terms of our schedule specifically, and everyone is in the same boat too, where we're making multi-year agreements. Like last year we went one place and then they come here this year. And the teams like Queens was here, or we went to Queens and then they're coming here. And Stanford was here earlier in the year. We're going to Stanford. BYU was here last year. We're going to BYU. And these are multi-year agreements. So you can't just go get everyone to come every year anymore. It's certainly got a lot more complicated. And I hope that answers the gist of that question. Recruiting. There's always interesting stories recruiting. I was thinking earlier when you were talking about Stein, I'll probably have to save this one for the senior banquet. But the story on his recruiting trip is like all time, but we don't have way too much. We don't have time for that. Because you had asked within the last few months. I went to Brazil in December, and I'll say this. So I was going to Southern California. I was going to recruit for a couple days, and then I was getting on a plane to go down to Sao Paulo, and then coming back. Well, I recruited for a few days in Southern California. I showed up to the airport Saturday morning in L.A., headed to Brazil, and they said, "Where's your visa?" and I pulled out my credit card, and they were like, "That's not the one we're talking about."
That one.
So unbeknownst to me and my travel agent and even the people at the airline, when I checked in, like nobody apparently needed a visa to go to Brazil these days. And even the travel agent had bought tickets for Shoji when he'd gone to the Olympics to watch his kid and was like, he didn't need it. Well, they got rid of the visa rule during the Olympics. So anyway, I had to like overnight it in L.A. and then I beelined it back, and then I ended up just a quick turnaround and went down, and then I flew on a red eye and got into L.A. in the morning, and then went to the consulate and got the visa. I ended up going down. We did sign the kid. We signed. His name is Guilherme Santos Voss. Kind of 6'7", 6'8", middle blocker off the Brazilian U21 national team. Nice player. Graduated from high school a year ago and just kind of taken a year to train and kind of enjoy life in Brazil a little bit. He is on their U21 team that will play in the World Championships this year. He's a pretty high-level player. So, the thing with going and recruiting internationally, and it doesn't really matter whether it's internationally or, like I said, whether I'm in California, which I went last week, or anywhere, that I just think it's important, that we're bringing people here, and like we mentioned, our lives are different, and I want to try to help them understand what Hawaii's like and certainly answer questions that we have. So I feel it's really important that if we're considering adding someone to our team, that I have to know them. They have to know me. We have to go meet the family, talk to the parents, and like I said, part of it's answering the questions, but part of it's just kind of getting to know them a little more and kind of establish that relationship and building that bond with them. So it does, we do get some interesting stories as we travel around, but I think it's time well spent as we add these guys and bring them here into our program.
Man, Fred took like 3 or 4 of my points that I wanted to get to you for this hour, and he took that all in about like 5 minutes or so.
Well, it is Call the Coach.
It is Call the Coach.
Listen to the coach. So.
Now,
Good job, Fred.
Now, I know we do have to take a break, but we do have a question in-house, and I believe he is with Dave Kwan. That question is no longer posed because apparently Fred took that question as well. All right.
Wow.
Well, we got to take a break. Again, the number 296-1420. It is Call the Coach. More to come here from Ruby Tuesday here in the Moanalua Shopping Center.
You're listening to Call the Coach, presented by Coors Light on ESPN 1420 and the Sideline Hawaii app.
We are having so much fun here down at Ruby Tuesday here in the Moanalua Shopping Center. Again, mahalo to Coors Light and Miller Lite, our sponsors for the evening. Again, our number 296-1420. We do have a call on the line. Janie, you are on with Coach Charlie Wade.
Hi there.
Hey, Janie.
Hello, Janie. Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You have a really long road trip at the ending of next month, and I wanted to know how are you preparing your players to be able to play at the top level mentally and physically, so that they're playing at the same level from the beginning of the trip till the ending of the trip, especially with a hostile environment like BYU.
Yeah, that's something, you're always working towards that, and that's something that, ultimately if we're successful throughout, that's not something that you work on in the short term. That's kind of a long term. We're getting there. They're very well conditioned, and they're able just to sustain, the level that we've set, both in terms of production and efficiency. And it doesn't matter if we're at home, sleeping in our own beds, or traveling, whether it's to BYU or California. So this group travels pretty good, and certainly that's a challenge where we're going to play 6 matches in just a little over a week. But, it's something that we've done every year, and the guys kind of wear it as a badge of courage, where it's like, look, this is one of the ways, again, where our lives are different, and we are challenged in ways that other teams aren't. And it's funny, one of those games we're playing on that trip is a Tuesday night at Concordia. And I originally was calling the teams in Southern California, the Pac-12 teams, to try to get them on the schedule too, and they didn't want to play on a midweek like that because it would give them like 5 games in a short amount of time. And I'm like, well, we're playing 6, and they're all on the road. Somebody here, so like you said, for us, it's at one point the guys would much rather play games than practice. So when you get out on the road like that, it's like we're playing games, and March is a big month for us. So we're looking forward to the challenge, and it starts this weekend on the road for us.
I have one more slight question. I noticed that there isn't any men's or Warrior volleyball T-shirts on sale at the Stan Sheriff Center. Why is that?
I think because my wife bought them all. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't make it up to the Rainbow Teak too often.
There's a lot of wahine and just volleyball, but where's the Warrior Ball T-shirt?
I agree. We're on the same page there, and that's the first I heard of it. I could check in a little bit and see maybe they've been ordered and they just haven't been delivered yet.
Okay. All right.
Janie, thank you so much. And again, those next Warrior home matches, March 15th, March 16th against CSUN, and you guys are hosting the Big West Conference Tournament, so maybe some Warrior Ball T-shirts can make their way to H-Zone before April 18th, 19th, and 20th?
Well, yeah, let's hope before March 7th would be even better, you know.
We have another question. We talked about recruiting earlier. You mentioned the young man from Brazil. Who else have you signed for 2019-2020?
We signed Chaz Galloway. He's real dynamic left side receiver attacker from San Diego. Like I said, dynamic. People are really going to enjoy watching the kid play. A little bit undersized, kind of your Josh Walker, but big jump, big arm. And then we signed a opposite from Greece, Demetrius Mouklias, who is a high-level player. He's been leading point scorer in a lot of the age group stuff in Europe throughout his career. When I talked to him when I was there, I'm trying to remember when I was there, but it's certainly within the last year. He thinks he's better than Rado right now, and I'm like, right on.
At digging or just overall in general?
Well, he's a legit six-rotation point scorer, and for me, it's like it's a luxury to have players of that caliber to be able to overlap them for a year, and certainly by design for us to just kind of again keep the practice level just ultra competitive. But he's going to be a good player. He's a lot different player than Rado. He's kind of long and lean and whippy, where Rado's just kind of this big overpowering thing. So, but a really nice player, really dynamic, and looking forward to getting him in our practice gym.
You've mentioned how close this team is, and it almost resembles the group back in 2017 that had the likes of Jennings Franciscovich, Hendrik Moll, Kupono Fay. One question we have that has been texted to us, it says, you've mentioned the connection between Joe and Gage, and that connection, and it's a close connection, that one that you don't always see. What makes this team so special here in 2019?
Well, I think it's a combination of the, just that they're all really into volleyball and, have really bought into just being the best in everything in their lives and their, in their quest and the journey of just trying to be a professional in everything in their life, what the sacrifices they've been willing to make. I think some of the shared experiences, both good and bad, getting a chance to compete for national championship and getting in the NCAA tournament and seeing, the leadership and the maturity of the Kupono Fay and Hendrik Moll of that group. And then, the disappointment of last year where we literally the only team in the country to beat the team that was the eventual national champion and being denied an opportunity to compete for national championship is something that has really kind of bonded the group, and they know how kind of fragile this whole thing is, and how important it is to not just us and the people that are working hard, but how important it is to the people in Hawaii. So there definitely is a level of focus that that they share, that they've kind of learned over the years.
We have been taking questions through text, through phone call. We've had people write their questions to us, but we also have somebody in-house that has a microphone in hand. Sir,
I thought he was getting ready for karaoke, but I guess he's got a question.
Hi, Coach. First of all, congratulations on exciting season so far.
Thank you.
The roster came out I think today or yesterday for the World University Games, and there weren't any Hawaii players on there. And I'm not real familiar with the World University Games, but maybe you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so it's the national team. There's multi opportunities to compete and represent the U.S. and train with the national team over the summer. The World University Games is one that I guess I would put it in category kind of the C team. There was a tryout that we sent guys to in December. Dalton, Joe, Gage, Colton all went, and Pat has been in that pipeline, and Brett Rosenmeyer has been in that pipeline. So you didn't have to go to that tryout to get on the World University Games. The University Games and I don't want to say this because it's a big time event. I don't want it to sound bad, but it's a pay to play event. literally, it's not funded by USA Volleyball, so the people that are participating on that are paying. And this year, it was like $6,000 per kid, and our guys are like, look, and we could spend the money. They let the universities pay for it as well. But we took the whole team to Japan for like $20,000. So we got, 3-4 guys. So all of our guys had, I got called about Pat, Dalton, Colton, Joe, like all those guys had an opportunity to be on that roster, but for us it just wasn't worth spending that kind of money to send one guy. They are hoping that they're just going to continue to work hard, and maybe their game is good enough to get recognized by USA Volleyball to participate in more the senior team, the A team or the B team, where that stuff is fully funded. Which again, Joe has. Tui did last year, Brett did last year. I said Pat's been in that pipeline. Gage has been in that pipeline. So they're kind of holding out and hoping that their game is good enough that they get recognized to compete on the stuff that the USA is paying for and that you don't have to pay for yourself.
All right, Dave, we have one more question from somebody in the audience.
Charlie, good to see you again. Been a while.
Basil, thank you. Good to see you too. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you on the Call the Coach. Hey, listen. As a former player myself, I'd like to go back for just a second on the issue of serving. A little technical question here. Serving is such a strength of this team. They're serving at such a high rate. Is there can you attribute to that something technical that they're doing? I mean, just getting in a practice gym and banging balls is only going to take you so far. And also, is one of the coaches responsible for this, Chad?
Well, I'd say this. Look, there's a concept. There is, again, you've been around the game a long time, and there is this kind of mindset for serving and aggressive serving. And really, a lot of coaches have turned it into this binary choice where you have hard or in. And that they're, but I prefer hard and in. And I think, and this is, and I know you play golf and you look at a lot of golf, analogies that we use different times. Like, how many guys that can pull a driver and swing out of their shoes on every hole and every time? It's just hard to do. And frankly, it's a bad idea to do in some situations. So you don't even need to, you pull a driver and swing out of your shoes when you're in the sand trap. You're kind of dumb. So you don't always have to. But I'd say in terms of the training, we do a lot of repetitive overhead motion, hand on ball, and guys paying attention to their ball flight. And we really have increased this in the last 2 years. And I'd say if you want to kind of get your head wrapped around the way what I feel about it and why we spend so much time with it, there's a book called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. And you can also just kind of search Daniel Coyle and the concept of myelination, and I don't want to go into the whole microbiology, but our guys are just better myelinated. The ability to enhance a motor skill where you can do it more efficiently and faster, and it takes repetitions and it takes quality repetition. But that really is the basis of our philosophy behind it, and we know that we have spent more time than our opponents really doing this specific part of the game, very kind of fundamental hand-on ball and snapping and spinning balls, and we'll back them way up and make them serve literally like 40, 50 feet straight, to a target and stuff, or even farther. So it's, that part of it, like I said, we've made progress. There's no question. Right now, putting together some stats the other day, every player on our team is serving the ball inbounds at a higher percentage than they were last year. That's a fact. Most everyone on the team is not only serving inbounds more frequently, but they've also increased their point scoring. And if they haven't, it's kind of a wash. Some are just right on the same number, and some have increased it significantly. So we're really confident that the training that we've been doing is paying dividends, And, again, my conversation with guys on some of the guys, and most of them, we've gone from talking about in and out. We go to there's another part of this, like aim small, miss small. So we're talking about somebody's trying to hit the guy's left foot or hit it, just outside, his right shoulder, or whatever we're trying to compromise on him. That we've gotten much more specific about what we're trying to do with the ball, and are just kind of passed in and out, or hard or soft. It's hard in with a purpose.
Great question, Basil. And
we can talk serving for hours.
We can talk serving the entire time, but we have to take one more break, Coach. You were listening to Call the Coach. We're here live at the Ruby Tuesday here in the Moana Shopping Center. This is Call the Coach.
Back to Call the Coach, brought to you in part by No Foods of Hawaii and the HGEA on ESPN 1420.
Welcome back here to Ruby Tuesday here in the Moana Shopping Center. About maybe 5 or 6 minutes left here for our first and we hope not last Call the Coach with head coach Charlie Wade of the undefeated #2 men's volleyball team. You've been ranked number 2 for now the 6th straight week, and like Janie said, a big month of March coming up for you folks, and it begins this Friday against a team that will. A lot of people know that have the history of getting the at-large bid over you guys from last season. And the Anteaters, your first trip to the Brent since 2017.
Yeah, they're a good team. We're looking forward to the challenge. Certainly one of the best teams in the country and one of the top teams in our league. So nice challenge for us to start off league play.
Team that's 13-2 on the season. They are 2-0 in the Big West Conference, and a battle of the Pineapple Orange crate that you guys won last year based off of total points. Is that crate going to make its way through TSA to go to Irvine this year?
It is. We're bringing a version of it. I sent Niff a message today saying, you got to go to Costco wherever you go to get your pineapples and oranges to fill it up. But yeah, no doubt, we're bringing it.
It's been an interesting season so far for Irvine. They've beaten Concordia, they've beaten Pepperdine, but they've lost to Stanford, team that you swept twice, and then they lost to SC in 4 sets, a team that you blew out to win the Texaco or the Hawaiian Airlines Rainbow Warrior Classic in the month of January.
Yeah, well, those are good teams, and and Irvine is really talented. They got their whole group back from last year, and got offensive weapons at every position on the floor. They're one of the best blocking teams in the country. Pretty deliberate from the service line, a little atypical, as I mentioned earlier, in that regard, that they're not going to try to knock you over, but they're going to put it in play at such a high rate that you're going to have to, get it by their massive block, and it'll be a real challenge for us.
And a squad like you folks, like Long Beach State, that returned a lot of starters from the 2018 season, guys like Scott Static, Dante Chakravorty running the offense, and like you said, a deliberate team that not only keeps the ball in play, they serve pretty high at a pretty high rate, but a team that also will try to force the pressure on you folks as much as possible.
For sure. And they got 2 guys in the lineup, the opposite, Affelbach and Schneidmiller's outside here as a sophomore, and really been, carrying a big load for them this year and playing at a high level. Those 2 guys can get after it for sure. So, like I said, it's going to be a challenge. They got great arms on the floor, and they're good at everything. They're good at ball control. They're good at blocking. They're good at attacking. So, it's a great way to start off league play and a great challenge for us.
2-0 on the road this year. You had the neutral site win against St. Francis in straight sets, who, by the way, took down George Mason over the weekend. You were 2-4 on the road last year. Any changes to how does this group travel here in 2019 when they go on the road?
We traveled great last year, too. I just think, and this is one thing we've talked about. Last year we kind of got into, we'd been in the NCAA tournament in 15, and then they got in 17, and we were rolling along, beating, really could beat anybody when we had our minds right. We just would take our foot off the gas and kind of thinking, we're going to end up in the same place competing for a national championship, and we lost 8 times, and it wasn't enough. So this group, I don't think there's any of that, and there has not been not one day of practice, not one day we've taken the court to compete. This group, there's a different level of focus to that. We will not have accomplished anything until the last match is over and they hand us the trophy. We're going to really guard against kind of getting into this, hey, we're okay, or somehow, you think it's okay if you lose. And not that we ever got into that last year, but it's just, there was a level of comfort with kind of who we were and where we were at, and this group is a lot more determined and a lot hungrier.
Team with, of course, Joe Worsley, one of the best setters in the nation, the only school to recruit him as a setter. Everybody else was practically asking him to be a libero. So we talked about Dalton Solberg,
asking him to be a libero.
Stein von Tilburg. You got about a minute and a half left, Coach. What's it going to take to go to the Brand this week and come away with 2 wins?
Well, for us, we just got to be true to ourselves and be who we are. We're really playing at a high level. We're doing a lot of things really good, and that's, if they're going to be better than us when we're doing what we do, hats off to them. But this team has been determined. They continue to work hard. And it's a super talented group, and not only are they good in volleyball, they're good in everything. I'll put our grade point average. I've said this against every team in the league. I know we have more guys that make the all academic team than anybody else, and just who they are in the community and how much it means to represent Warrior Volleyball and represent Hawaii. It's a special group, and we're looking forward to this next kind of chapter in the journey this weekend, and just excited about the opportunity and know that these guys are going to give it their best effort.
It's been so much fun, Coach. We're about out of time.
Yeah, how about this crowd tonight, huh?
Very great crowd.
Give yourself a round of applause there.
Again, both matches this weekend being streamed on BigWest.tv, Friday night, Saturday night, 7 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Hawaiian time. A lot of people will be watching, tuning in. Number 2 versus number 3, and we'll see you in a week for the 25th Annual Outrigger Resorts and Hotels Volleyball Invitational.
Right on. Thank you, Tiff.
Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you to Coors Light, Miller Lite, Ruby Tuesday here in the Moana Shopping Center. To Keegan, AC, Dave, Chris, and Sheldon, I'm Tiff Wells, and you've been listening to Call the Coach.
Aloha.
Coach, live from Ruby Tuesday in Moanalua, presented by Coors Light. Also, mahalo to No Foods of Hawaii. Say yes to no. The HGEA. We are HGEA Strong. City Mill. Big on help, big on savings. Proud to be local. Hawaiian Financial Federal Credit Union. Xanthicin, the safe anti-inflammatory for health and longevity, available at GNC. The Hawaiian Airlines Bank of Hawaii MasterCard. POP Fishing and Marine. Here, glory, we got it on Pier 38. This has been another exclusive University of Hawaii sports presentation on ESPN 1420 and the